Percentages, just like fractions, sometimes give students a little bit of trouble, but it's a very important topic. Why, you may ask? What about when you're going shopping? If you're looking at markups or markdowns, 20% off, 30% off, 35% off, you want to know what you're spending. What if they don't have all of the prices listed and you want to know ahead of time to ensure that you have what's in the bank so that you can take care of what you're purchasing? So whenever working through these problems, we're going to go through a standard formula that I like to use for any type of percentage problem. What is that formula? You have is divided by of equals percent divided by 100. And this is just a standard percentage problem. But what happens if we're looking at either a price increase, price decrease, population increase, population decrease? We're going to look at change divided by original equals percent still divided by 100. So these are the two formulas that I want to keep in your mind as we go through a couple of examples. First question, 0.72 is 15% of what number? Now that formula again is divided by of equals percent divided by 100. So when we're faced with a question like this, we want to identify all of the numbers that correspond with each of the different positions in the fractions on either side of the proportion and go ahead and fill those values in. So it says 0.72 is, there's my is, so I'm going to go ahead and write in 0.72 or 72 hundredths, just a quick reminder of how to read that, divided by of. So of what number? What number means that we don't know what of is. So we're going to actually put the variable x in. Equals percent, of course, 15%. So we're going to write the number 15 divided by 100. You should remember that whenever dealing with proportions would be two fractions that are set equal to each other. The way to solve it is first you need to only have one unknown, and then we can simply cross multiply. We're going to multiply here, and we're going to multiply here. And we're going to set those two products equal to each other. So I have 15x equals 0.72 times 100, which is simply 15x equals 72. Solving equations, divide both sides by 15, and we get x equals 4.8 or 4 8/8. Now, there are other ways that we could have solved this. Please know that I usually don't have very much time to go through every different option in these videos, but I just want to quickly show you something. So I have 15 divided by 100. You may have seen that you could reduce that. Both the numerator and the denominator are divisible by 5. So if I divided 15 by 5, I would have 3. And if I divided 100 by 5, I would have 20. So instead of multiplying 100 by 0.72, I would multiply 0.72 times 20. So any way you want to solve it, as long as you get to the final answer of 4.8 and you're able to prove your steps with your work, you should be absolutely fine. Okay, example B. What number is 2% of 840? Our standard formula again is divided by of equals percent divided by 100. What number is? We don't know what it is, so we're going to go ahead and stuff in a variable, or x, of 840. So we're going to write in 840 Percent is 2 divided by 100. So this time I'm going to actually go ahead and simplify, unlike last time where I worked it through just to show you what we're supposed to do, or just to remind you more so. So I can divide 2 by 2. I'm going to actually write it out to have 1. And since I divided the numerator by 2, I also have to do the denominator, which gives me 50. We're going to go back to our cross multiplication. We're going to multiply on this diagonal and multiply on this diagonal. So that gives me 50 times x, or 50x equals 1 times 840. We divide both sides by 50. And you should remember powers of 10, right? Powers of 10, if I have the same number of zeros or as many number zeros in common, I can go ahead and divide those off, because that's really 84 times 10 and 5 times 10. So the 10s are dividing off, but we just see it as zeros dividing off. And that leaves me with x equals 16 and 8/10, or 16.8. For example C, what percent of 50 is 140? Is divided by of equals percent divided by 100. Here we have what percent of 50 is. So of 50 is 140. And since we had what percent, we don't know what it is, we're going to go ahead and put an X, and 100 never changes. Using powers of 10 again, I can divide off the zeros on the left hand side, and then I am going to cross multiply. So I am going to multiply on this diagonal and multiply on this diagonal. So that leaves me with 5 times x, or 5x equals 14 times 100. I divide both sides by 5. Of course, we know 5 divides into 100, leaving us with 20. 20 times 14 is 280. Last example, D. A species population dropped from 5,000 in the year 2000 to 3,200 in the year 2011. Find the percent decrease in its population. Now, with these types of problems, it's very easy to get confused because there's so many numbers. So what we're going to do is highlight the important pieces. A species population dropped. So since I see drop, I know that I'm probably going to be looking at percent decrease. So dropped from 5,000. So that means the original was 5,000. In the year 2000, we don't care about the year, to 3,200. So the original was 5,000 and the species dropped to 3,200. So these are the numbers that I need from this word problem. So remember again, our two formulas for working with percentages that we were talking about are is divided by of equals percent divided by 100, but we also had change divided by original equals percent divided by 100. So how do we determine what the change is? All we do is subtract change. So the change is found by taking the original, which is 5,000, and subtracting the new value, which is 3,200. So from this, we get 1,800. We're at 1,800. So change is 1,800 or 1,800 divided by the original, 5,000, equal to x divided by 100. Using our powers of 10 again, these are things just to make it a little bit easier. I know that many of you may have a calculator, but it's sometimes easier to put simpler numbers in and not get yourself lost with zeros. So I have 2 zeros in the numerator. I'm going to divide those off because I have 2 common zeros in the denominator. So numerator, I get rid of 2 zeros. Denominator, I get rid of 2 zeros. You should notice that there's still 1 zero left in the denominator, which has to stay because you can only divide off the same number of zeros between numerator and denominator. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply. So that gives me 50x equals 18 times 100. I divide both sides by 50. And of course 50 goes into 100 2 times. And these 50s divide off. So I have x equals 18 times 2, which gives us 36%. So the percent decrease is 36%. The population of 5,000 decreased 36% from 2000 to 2011, leaving us with a population of 3,200.